Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Select Board meeting for February 15th, 2024 for Highgate. First order of business, Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you much. So, full house. We haven't had a full house in a while. If everybody could, if you didn't already sign in, could you please sign in sometime during the meeting, just so Wendy can keep good records here. Since we do have a full house, we got a very busy agenda tonight. We got it all laid out. The one thing I asked tonight is we get into some banter sometimes. If we could just stay on topic tonight with everybody and the guest speakers, try and keep everything as short as possible, questions as precise as possible. And we and the guest speakers try and do the same for you. This way everybody can get an equal amount of time and we're not here till midnight, if that's cool, because the snow starts in about a half hour. So, public comment first. Sue had her hand up first. We'll get to it.
Just a quick question. This has been, it's not just my road, but are you guys doing any paving this year? Since the bus has come down on my road, and my road is caving in a lot more, and I'm on a lot of Highgate roads, and they're really bad. Quite a few people has called me, wanting to know if they're doing any paving on the Highgate roads this year.
Yes. I have been down the road and noticed that.
Yes, it's bad since the bus has been going down there, and it's caving in, and it's really, really bad. I just wanna.
So Pike overbooked their schedule.
Okay, I'm just asking.
And they could, I'm speaking so everyone can hear me with my lost voice. Pike overbooked their schedule for the fiscal year that we just ended, so they never made it to us.
Okay.
So the highway crew is hoping to get done last fiscal year and this fiscal year together.
Okay.
Starting probably June and into July, so they can do both fiscal years.
Okay.
But yes, it's coming.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
got a little snafu with the papers.
Okay, it's just I've had people ask me, and it's just not my concern. There's a lot of Highgate, and I can get the message out. Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sue. Mr. Noel.
I'd just like to think we should give a moment of silence for passing of Charlie Nye.
We can do that right now.
Thank you, Charlie. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, next on the agenda, we got St. Albans PD. And we got two of the reps here. We got Lieutenant and the Captain. Chief, I'm sorry, Chief, my bad. Should have known better, my bad. Yeah, I hear you. Any questions for them? If not, I'm sure they got a little spiel for what's been going on here in Highgate. No questions? Okay, I know there's some questions in the last meeting about they haven't seen them on patrol as much during the daytime hours or just at all. Could you guys address that, please?
Yep, so initially when we started this year's contract, we made sure to have a conversation that if there wasn't staffing left to cover our first area of recognition, our responsibility, we wouldn't necessarily be covering this. However, we would make every effort to do such. So hours have been cut back a little bit, depending on the month and depending on staffing issues, obviously. That is reflected in the billing cycle. So we do not bill for hours that we're not here. We keep track of that very closely. So if you check with your records too, as far as the billing goes, that will reflect accordingly. We have some folks, a gentleman that just graduated the academy and one that just went in. So staffing has started to pick up and hours here have picked up a little bit more. And we hope to continue that obviously into the spring season. And generally when we do work out here, it's usually like 6 p.m. in the later, not always. So you may not necessarily see us as much. And Highgate's pretty big. In the past we've had conversation about not just sitting here in the middle of town, so to speak, the park and ride or wherever else. So we try to make sure that our folks are moving and roving. And it's a long list from one end of town to the other. But if we're not here, we're not billing you. And I think that's the fair way to do it, obviously. If that makes sense. We have questions about that.
There were so many questions last time. No questions at all tonight? Okay. So you don't bill us for hours that you're not serving out here?
Correct.
It sounds like you're focusing on nights right now, and that's because of staffing during the day.
Correct.
If anybody has concern or needs, if there's a hot spot, speeder, something else, need the police, you can call them direct, or you can call Sharon or somebody at the town here. We can pass along to them if they need to be patrolling ATVs, something like that,
And we
to
get
help you
a lot
out.
of emails from residents
Okay.
specific. They'll email us straight out of the gate and say, on my road or wherever it is, if they have issues, so. And we do monitor when state police are covering out here, we monitor what's happening. The car breaks between here and then over on,
Monument.
Monument, so we pay a little extra attention to that and try to change our patrol procedure, so to speak, when stuff like that happens.
And you guys, I think, are still on with the town until the end of July or beginning? I can't remember.
Yeah.
End of June. Okay, so, all right. And then Frank County Sheriff will be taking over then, because you guys have had to sign on with St. Albans Town
Correct, as our primary.
as your primary. Okay. All right.
Approximately how many hours a week are you here?
It really depends on the week. One week it could be the full 26, other weeks it could be minimal. So I don't have the exact numbers on hand. Yeah.
Jason,
Yes.
I have the bill that was just sent to me.
Okay.
The January of 2024 hours were a total of 32.
Yeah.
And that's what we were billed for.
Yeah, the most we can bill is 26, the most we would be here is 26, in a week.
Are you seeing one sort of call for Highgate in particular, or certain stops?
We haven't necessarily. It seems like, as of recent, the same thing that's kind of bouncing around the rest of the county is it seems like there's a lot of car breaks happening. And I use that term loosely. There's a lot of unlocked vehicles that are being accessed, unfortunately. Stuff's being taken out of out of cars. Some
I have
speed
a question to
complaints.
that though, when you talk about the break-ins of cars.
Yeah.
The Vermont legislature just barely passed a law saying that's illegal there.
Well, they're working on passing it to make it a felony to get
Right, but I
enter a
mean-
vehicle. Yeah, well, if you take something out of it, we can attempt to charge the person with like the larceny or the theft of the product that was taken or whatever the item was taken out. But yeah, there's a lot of things that are being played catch up and a big thing to do though. I know it's hard for some of us. I live in a very rural area myself. Is just make sure you lock your doors. Most of the time, people aren't smashing windows. Yeah, knock on wood. So just take that extra 2 seconds to lock it. Take the valuables out of your vehicles.
I haven't read anything on the news this week, but the Monument Road, did you guys get, or anybody get the bad guys on that yet, or?
That was a state police primary case.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure. I haven't heard, to be honest with you.
We've had 2 break-ins on Monument Road.
Yep.
One was a week ago Saturday, it was, somebody broke into the garage, the car. Following night, 2 nights later, somebody broke into Tanglewood and stole the computer out of the car. It was a school computer. And that was with a couple of days of the year. And then a couple nights later, the state police was down there, because my neighbor called me to see if I was okay. They said the state police was down there with blue lights, I don't know what was going on. It was you? Okay. You didn't even come say hi to your cousin Jason?
So we tried to, so there was 2 cruisers we tried to take, there's 2 of us out here the other night. Shortly after that, and we have, they're called cruise blues. It's just a steady burn blue light. We're not driving around with strobes on. It's just like, hey, we're here, pay attention. And sometimes it can act as a deterrent, and it also lets the folks know that we're in the area and cruising around. We don't always do that. It's not always conducive to certain styles of policing, but sometimes it works well, and obviously it kind of drew attention, and that's what we were looking to do. And
Thank you. My neighbor called me right up to see if I was okay. I said, yeah, I'm fine. I didn't know what was going on.
Mr. Weatherby?
Yeah, do you patrol on the weekends, like Saturday, Sunday?
yeah. It all depends on, again, availabilities.
Yeah, 'cause Saturday, Woody was over to his nephew's place there. I was out on the front porch and side by sides and 4-wheels are ripping up and down through there on Lincoln Street about 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, well, if let us know specifically. I think we've done okay with targeting areas, so to speak. Like I said before, we're here minimal, and then the vast layout of the town. So if we can get the help from the community to say, hey, it's picking up here again, it's picking up whatever location, then again, we can reallocate the resources that we do have coming out here to hopefully combat that a little bit.
Lancome Street is known for speeders.
Yep, yep. Yeah, we this spring, again, we started using some speed identifying technology, a box, in certain locations last year to try to get a good grasp on times of day, the best due traffic and speed enforcement. So we plan on, once the weather cooperates, getting that back out, and we can get that out on Lancome Street again, so we can utilize that technology to better target our enforcement times.
But all of those type of complaints are going to increase as the spring comes, when it eventually does come. That's been that way for my 25 years. So we're all gonna see the four-wheelers, ATVs, and the speed. So that becomes very important that people report that to us, so we can get ahead of it if we can get ahead of it. Because if we put a dent in it right off in April and May, makes a big difference for the summer, in my experience.
Absolutely. You guys have done wonders with the ATV problem since we picked you up on the contract, was it 4 years ago? It's a lot, very noticeable.
Yep.
Yep.
But they'll take advantage of it. They'll take advantage of it.
Yeah, they always do. Everybody gets spring fever.
And just, I don't know if anybody else has any questions, but just kind of on a note here, I think what's made this relationship work so well is the communication. So if the townsfolk have an issue or perceived, or whatever it is, bring that to these folks and they bring it to us. And I think that's really worked out well. We haven't solved the world's problems, and we never will, right? But at the same time, I think this open, connected relationship that we have is very productive when it comes to this type of policing. So.
Anything else? Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you very
Keeping
much.
our town safe.
Yep, we appreciate it.
Have a good night.
All right.
Have a good night.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Got 2 warm seats up front.
So that's trouble, Andrew, stay here in the back.
All right, next on the agenda, we got senior housing questions and answers with Miss Cindy Reed from Cathedral Square, right there, the area right up front. And I see you brought a picture of what's gonna happen, what could possibly happen.
I did, new master plan?
Yeah, the new master
Yes,
plan, yes.
yes.
So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't,
What's your pleasure?
So, can you tell us, those of us who haven't been
Yeah.
through the,
Quick overview?
yes, please,
Okay,
and why Cathedral Square is interested in Highgate and why, I'll say why Highgate's delighted to have you.
Okay, great. Yeah, you'll just turn and see what that. So I've been here a couple times, and I've seen the people before, but not everyone. I'm Cindy Reed, I'm with Cathedral Square, which is a nonprofit housing organization that works within Northwest Vermont. And we own 27 communities. We primarily work with older adults, 55 and up. And we have 27 communities of a little over 1,000 apartments in Chittenden, Franklin, Grand County. We have a project underway in St. Albans, which we're hoping to start construction in June. And in, I think, November, Sharon contacted me and said, we're really interested in having senior housing in our village center, and told me about your many years of planning with the village core committee, and the community interested in revitalizing that part of the town, and having a senior housing community so that older adults could remain in Highgate when they can no longer be in their own home. And so just was delighted to be contacted and learn about the planning process here, and we are expanding our footprint in Franklin County, because when we have one community in St. Albans now, we're building another one, and so we always look at how far out our buildings are in terms of our maintenance capacity, because we take really good care of our buildings. So we're looking at a proposed 30-unit building with 26 one-bedrooms, 4 two-bedrooms apartments. It's independent living, but there's on-site services to help people age in place. There's a lot of common areas, a community room, a kitchen, a lounge, a small gym, on-site laundry, garden planters for residents. We're pet friendly. Let's see what else. So nice amenities for folks, well designed. we hired the same architect as the towns used for their master planning, which is Goslin's Walkman, their initials are GBA. So they updated the master plan, because we just went through schematic design with them to sketch out what a 30-unit building would look like on that site, knowing that the town also wants a new library and some small commercial spaces. So it looks like a lot of land, but then when you start putting things on it, it gets tight. So it is a tight site, but the revised master plan, which Sharon has,
Yes, there's some on the table there.
shows the actual footprint of the senior housing building that Goslin's Walkman designed, and they plopped it on the master plan so you can see how it relates to the other uses. And we've already submitted a couple of funding applications. It takes us a while. We don't act quickly because we compete for federal and state funding along with a lot of other folks because we're really in a housing crisis. So there's a lot of need, there's a lot of projects around the state seeking the same funding, but we feel that it's a very competitive project. And it's really, I don't think it's, if when. And the thing about the water wastewater, I was really excited to hear from the get-go because for multifamily housing, we really need municipal water wastewater. It just isn't feasible without it, so they really go hand in hand. And I know you're probably all really anxious to get to the next part of the agenda, which is the water wastewater disposal systems. But so I wanted to just do a quick highlight. I don't know if I missed anything important, but if anyone has any questions.
Security. You didn't mention security.
Oh, security. Yep, it's a secure building, so there'll be a push pad to get in. And that's going to be really important for safety and security of our population. We also have security cameras, good lighting. Safety is of critical importance to us.
Cathedral Square is one of the, or is the gold standard of senior housing in Vermont. They have done an awesome job of keeping their buildings well maintained, well run, well managed. They offer different income levels, so it's kind of a mixed income level for folks. There is an inquiry list started already if people are interested, and I know some of you here have already called, and that's fantastic.
Great.
This is something that Highgate's needed for a long time, and we want our older citizens to be able to stay in town. We want them to stay close to their family and friends. They're a very important part of our lives.
So this Colonial Square, are you actually affiliated with the national organization of Colonial Square?
No.
Or Cathedral Square, I mean?
No,
It's
we're
not-
local nonprofit.
Right, but if you look, I looked it up. Colonial Square or whatever it
We're
is.
Cathedral Square.
Or Cathedral Square, I looked it up. And there's different cathedral squares around this country.
There probably are.
And
We
because
are-
I was looking at reviews
Yeah.
to see pros and cons, to see, and it's, but you guys are not part of that organization?
Absolutely not. No, we're a Vermont corporation. We only work in Vermont.
Okay.
Yeah, we were started by the Cathedral Church of St. Paul, which is the cathedral church on Battery Street and St. Paul Street.
That burned.
Well, yeah, it burned,
Yeah,
but
it
they
burned
built a
down.
new one. It looks, it's like a concrete structure. It's Cherry and Battery
Yeah, I know where.
and Pearl, yeah. They founded us in 1977 as a social mission, and then we built a high-rise on their land right next door, which is the really tall, it's like a triangular concrete building. So that was our first property, and that's who we are. We're a Vermont corporation, have no national affiliation whatsoever.
Cathedralsquare.org is the website.
Yeah.
Up on it right
And
now.
we did put the master
I see
plan
that.
on the website,
Yeah.
thank you, just
So yeah,
today.
the Highgate master plan is on their website now with the diagram that's going around along with all the notes that go with it.
If I may make a statement, and I promise I'll keep it quick, Vern.
Thank you.
I just wanted to let everybody know, as a medical social worker, my specialty was gerontology, working with older people and hospice and palliative care. And so the vast majority of my clientele lived within senior housing areas. And it is something that, regardless of how it has to happen, that Highgate should really consider, because it was huge for all of my clients, and it extended lifetimes by years by having people around the area with similar interests and similar age groups, and being able to have people there to count on, and somebody would always come next door and knock on the door and check on them every morning, and it's just really big. And as somebody whose parents are aging, and I know a lot of my age cohort's parents are aging, it's something that we should really consider, in my opinion.
Sharon, could you talk about the tax implications for the town?
So, Cathedral Square gets tax credits. It's what helps them construct this building. They will pay the town $100,000 if we vote to accept that for the sale price of the land. They will build the building themselves. The town has no investment in that part of it. But they just put up a building in South Hero, Bayview Crossing, which is a beautiful building. And I called the town of South Hero and asked their town clerk, how much taxes does Cathedral Square bring into the town of South Hero? Because I really wasn't sure what the tax implications would be. It brings in $47,000 of tax money to the town of South Hero.
Town and school.
That's town and school. That's $47,000 that you and I and our friends and neighbors don't have to pay toward our tax bills. For us, is huge. That's a huge benefit to the town. Not only are we doing the right thing socially, we're doing the right thing economically as well. And the best thing I like about Cathedral Square is they give a darn about their people. Whether it's their employees or their residents, they care. They want you to be able to have independent living as long as possible, and they help you see to that. And that's what I would want for my parents or my grandparents, is to be able to take care of themselves as long as possible and be happy, healthy, and safe.
One of the best things I like about the idea of senior housing, it doesn't add to the cost of school.
Yeah.
So if we paid $550,000 for the property, we're getting $100,000 back from them. We're gonna eat the other $450,000?
As soon as you come up with the extra $300,000 you made up, we'll do that. We only paid $250,000 for
I
that.
thought you paid $550,000.
No, we did not. No. No, 250 at, in 2017. So 100 would come back, and then you still have 4 lots left.
No, I was adding on, I adding the $300,000 that we paid for the land that we ain't used yet.
Getting closer.
Sharon, you didn't mention, but also if they do get the senior housing, then the seniors can go volunteer at the school, they can go to the library. That's a very good point, because these seniors are bored. And with us having it into the center, they can walk over to the school and volunteer. So that would keep them busy. Part of your business.
That one unit alone, if and when it does come in, that taxes will alleviate any cost we've had in 5 years.
Right.
After that, it will go.
Any other questions directly for Cindy? Okay, go ahead,
I
sir.
don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but what is the average square footage of one of the apartments?
Well, that's a good question. The one-bedroom apartments are about, I think they're about 630 square feet. And the 2 bedrooms, I think, are about 940, those are estimates.
Another question, is there an can you do laundry in your apartment?
No, we'll have a central laundry room. And that, I think there'll be 4 pairs of machines.
Any dishwashers besides your husband?
Gotta have some extra.
Bedroom apartments come with a dishwasher,
Some
not
do?
the one bedroom. In the one bedroom, you have to do some.
Is it gonna be carpet or wood? Carpet's bad for old age.
We typically do carpet in bedrooms, and then vinyl plank in the kitchen living room area for a smooth surface. And then the bathroom is sheet vinyl. And typically in our community rooms, we have vinyl plank.
I
And
know
then
there's some in Milton that have just like laminate floor and they
Yeah.
don't have carpet.
Yeah, in the bedrooms they do. You've been in the
Oh,
other
they do,
place,
yeah.
really?
No,
Uh-huh.
the one I was in, it's all
Oh, wood?
laminate flooring all
Yeah,
throughout.
she just was in, her friend has lived in one.
Oh, okay. So,
It's down the back of McDonald's.
Haydenberry.
oh, yeah, that's David Shank's property. We do some carpet, but we've been using more vinyl plank because it lasts longer. And it's really good for, if you have a walker or wheelchair, it's smoother.
Easier to clean too.
And it's easier to clean. And it doesn't end up in the landfill, and stuff, where it lasts longer.
No,
You just got another job.
inside parking?
There's underbuilding parking.
Uh,
I think we're fitting 21 cars under the building, and then 9 service spaces is what we're proposing. That'll need to go through permitting.
Silly question I've got, but I know somebody's gonna ask.
Yeah.
Do you do windows?
Do we clean windows?
No.
It's actually not a silly question. So we clean the community area windows. We actually just worked on a new window washing policy, so it's a good question. And then we don't necessarily clean resident windows. Each property is different, so some of our properties are really urban and they get dirty quickly, or it's windy, so every property is a little different. For some, I think what we're gonna do going forward is in apartments, if we're doing a window washing already, we'll get a per window cost from the contractor. And then if residents want their windows washed, if they're not able to do them themselves, they can pay for that per unit.
I'm specifically talking about the outside. You're gonna have 3 stories.
Yeah,
That's gonna be a problem for you.
right. So it's case by case depending on the building. It's really quite an operating cost.
Yeah.
And as tax insurance, as everything's going up, window washing is suddenly, sort of come down in the level of, so each building's a little different based on where it is and how dirty it gets.
Depends on the windows you're putting in too.
You say if they're double hung windows, you can do it from the interior, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
because you can do it from the inside.
Right.
Do the windows pull in to wash them?
We haven't designed that far out yet. But what we've been doing is not double hung, but casement, because they're more energy efficient. Casement with an awning window and part fixed, part awning. That's what we've been doing because it's the most energy efficient product that we've been using so far. But we're not quite that far yet.
No, we gotta think, a few things to take care of first.
Yeah.
But first we gotta get, there's a lot of other steps before we get to windows. But they're good questions.
Do you have air conditioning in the summer and whatnot?
We do, yep, there'll be central air.
Yep.
Well, there'll probably be 2 heat pumps.
Yep.
But we have been, for the last, I'd say 10 years, in our new properties, putting in central AC because climate's changing, it's getting warmer, and a lot of folks might have respiratory, as people age, tend to get respiratory.
And the air conditioning and heating bills are included in their rent.
Right, rent includes all utilities and laundry and our SASH services.
And what's SASH?
SASH is support and services at home, and it is independent living, but we're the architect of this program that we offer statewide through different housing and care partners. And the partners are like Northwest Medical Center, the Northwest Counseling Services, Howard Center, CDOYO, those kind of partners and doctors, and they are a team and work with our wellness nurse and our SASH coordinator and work with our residents, and free, that's voluntary and it's free. And we have really good health data on, avoided hospitalizations, lower blood pressure, fewer falls, so we actually track data and we've been independently researched and surveyed. So we have that data, which has been, it's actually been a great program, helps people stay in their own home longer, hopefully forever is our goal.
Last meeting, we had a bunch of questions about wastewater and how this is gonna work and some concerns. So we asked Sharon if she could get in touch with some people from the state who are experts on this. And online we have, I'm gonna get this right, Miss Ashwak Afari. Did I get that right? She's still there?
Yes, right.
Okay, great, great.
And we also have Forest.
Oh, and Forest, yep.
Yes.
Oh, Northern Lights, nice. If anybody's got wastewater questions, I'm not a subject matter expert on this. I know what I know. Built the house myself, that's about it. But if you got questions, that's why I had these two people chime in tonight, be able to answer your questions hopefully.
So Ashwak works closely with me and our engineer, so she can answer specific questions about the wastewater you might have. Forrest is with Vermont Rural Water, and he also has information about water systems and wastewater and why they're important and what happens. So they are able to answer any of your questions. So everyone along Lambton Street that abuts that property should have gotten a letter from me saying that this meeting was happening tonight and that we were having these folks come and talk. So whoever would like to start off the questions, I know Mr. Weatherby, you had some concerns as well, so these people would know the answers.
30,000 gallons per day of spread of black gray water. What size distribution does it require? Like within a water well, inside the parameters that could be contaminated?
So Ashwak, were you able to hear him?
Not the last part. I just heard the first part about 30,000 gallons per day, and then what's the question? Sorry, I can't hear well.
So at 30,000 gallons a day, he wants to know what the disbursement rate is. He's concerned about would his well be within that disbursement, and would he have a reason to be afraid for his well water?
Yes. So, regardless from the design flow, our program, that is the indirect discharge program, that is which gives the permits for this wastewater system, will make sure, so we have some technical requirements, and among those requirements, so the consultant for this project, he should perform a hydrogeological study and make sure all the wells within 1,000 feet of the proposed wastewater system will not be affected. So it's one of the requirements of the permit, and we will check that.
So were you?
In addition to some setbacks from the wells and from any surface water. Yeah.
So were you able to understand that?
Getting bits and pieces, it was 1,000 feet.
Yes. She's saying that they would have to be, as part of the permit process for the state of Vermont, they'd have to be 1,000 feet from the well water.
No, not exactly,
Sorry.
Sharon. I said that all the wells within 1,000 feet from the system should be, will be assessed.
Oh, okay.
So, and all the wells downgraded the system because wastewater will follow the slope. So all the wells downgrading the wastewater system will be assessed. And we will check that and before issuing the permit. So it's a very important requirement and make sure that there will be no issues with that.
So his water would be north of the system, and it would be on the, do you remember where the blue line was in Hugo's
Yes.
picture?
Yes.
That's his property line, the gentleman's property line, so he's concerned about his well being right there.
So I believe, if I remember well, the wastewater system is, the house or the well is upgraded. It's higher in the level than the proposed wastewater system. So the assumption is that the wastewater system will go downgrading towards the western part of the right property.
Yes,
But we still need to check that. The consultant for the project, we still need to check that all the wells around the wastewater system will not be affected. And there are some technical details. I will not enter into the technical details, but we will make sure there's no. I can't say categorically now that the well will not be affected, because we need to know the nature of the soils and the level of groundwater and the direction of groundwater before giving conclusions. But we will be able, once the consultant performs all this study, so to assess that.
okay, so did you get that?
Yeah, it kinda sounds like there's no guarantees.
So if they do their assessment and they determine that a well may be affected, then what's the next step? Is the permit just denied? What happens?
Did you hear that, Ashwack? We have a
Yes,
question.
yes. I heard that.
Okay.
So for some projects, it's just that the owner of that well could shift to either a public water system or share water with another neighbor. And for some other projects, there was pre-treatment of the wastewater that is installed in order to not to have this risk of contamination of the water. But still, I can't give a conclusion now. Everything depends on the study and the study will be started by the end of this month.
Correct.
And we will understand better. But I would assume that the house, the wells that are upgraded, on the Lampkin Street, they are a little bit higher than the level of the leach field. So groundwater, the wastewater, probably will not go. Will go down and will not reach those wells. But we still need to confirm with the coming study.
Yes.
I can't say right now.
So that's what we talked about last time, was the monitoring wells and the test pits that they're gonna dig on the 26th of February.
Those test pits, you said something about monitoring wells, you're gonna be monitoring wells?
There'll be 10 monitoring wells as well.
And the other thing that wasn't addressed in that conversation is, at the end, now I'm not sure what you're doing with the markers out there, but you got yellow rolls, and I'm assuming that's the outside edges of it, and then you got pink ones in the center. On the far end, from my house towards the woods, the pink ones that are there are less than 1,000 feet from the spring that my mom has water rights to, down over the bank, which is lower than your wastewater.
So once part of this monitoring well is to determine where the groundwater is, determine which way it flows. So they want to make sure it doesn't flow back toward your place. They want to make.
Yes. Yeah. And there is something else, sorry, I want to clarify.
Yes, please.
If the well, let's say that the well is lower than the groundwater level and there may be contamination, there are other requirements which are called 2-year time of travel. This is something to make sure that the water will take like 2 years. There is a minimal distance that says that the water will take 2 years to make that distance before reaching your well, and during that distance, the soil will treat the wastewater, so there is no risk. So there are a lot of parameters that will be assessed. And the consultant will submit that to the state, and together we will make sure before issuing any permits that your well and the downgraded wells will not be contaminated.
Now, will he get notified of any, before any permit is issued by the state? Will he get notification?
Yes, there is a period for public comments, and there is a notification also, yes, that the town should do before issuing the permits. All the neighbors, all the landowners that are close to the leach field will be notified. And also there is a 1 month period for public comments before issuing the permit.
Will you be there the day they're doing the test holes?
Sorry, the date for doing the test pits, that's the question?
Yes, he wanted to know if you would be there.
Yes, I will be there. It's on the 26th of February. I will be there with all our team, yes.
Because it'll be easier to understand, and I can show you what I'm talking about and try to understand what you're saying. Like I said to the room, the people that was here the last time, this is a great project with the old folks home, no problem. But if you're gonna take out somebody's drinking water in the area to get that to happen, then the people that are already here should be looked at first and considered first, because they're taxpayers and been here since 1968.
I understand. I understand.
Even longer, yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions about the wastewater or what a leach field does, what this disposal field will do?
Your question, how many gallons does the average house put out in gray black water a day?
Forrest, do you know the answer to that? How much gallons per day does an average house put out for wastewater?
I do believe each person about 30 gallons.
I can answer. Yes. It's 70 gallons per day per person, and with an occupancy of 2 persons per room. So if, for example, if you have a 3-bedroom single family residence, it's 420 gallons per day. And then you add 70 gallons per day for each room.
For each room?
For up to 3 bedroom.
Okay.
In house you have 140 gallons per day for a room. So it makes 420 gallons per day for a 3 bedroom house. And then if you for every extra room you add 70 gallons per day. So for the 3 bedroom house you have 420. For a 4 bedroom house it's 490. So in average, the average house is 420 gallons per day. But there are other, yes, let's say that. But then this is for the estimation of the design flow, the question?
Yes, yeah.
It may be a little bit less because when you have a community, we decrease a little bit the design flow from 420 to like 260. So, yeah.
Any other questions? So,
in this process, basically the homeowners or whatever the community that's hooked into it will have a tank, correct? And this will be their gray water. going into it.
And black water. It's any water that rolls through a septic tank. It's not gonna have two separate lines, one that goes as gray water and one that goes as septic tank. It's black and gray water.
Right. So this is the discharge going, who's gonna monitor that septic tank? If somebody doesn't ever pump it out, they're gonna end up spilling stuff more than black and gray water.
So, Ashwack, I guess what we're asking is, what happens on someone's property if they don't take care of their tank? Does that back up into the wastewater system and cause problems?
Normally, if this community wastewater system is built, so it will be the town responsibility to maintain the system, and it's included in the O&M costs to make sure to maintain the septic tanks. What happens? The system can no. If it's one residence, I don't think that will fail our system because it's a big system. It's not like when you have your own leach field and your septic system and your septic tank. If you don't maintain well, you may have, your system may fail and have a backup of wastewater to your house. It's not the same thing because in this case it's a community wastewater system. So all the wastewater will be conveyed from your house, from your septic tank to that leach field. So I don't think there is a risk we cannot, as state, we cannot control that. It's up to the town to make aware the residents and people who are connected to the system that it's important. There are guidelines about the maintenance of the system that we can, as outreach efforts, we can share them and the town can make that effort. But I don't think if it's at the scale of one house, that will not lead to the failure of the wastewater system. But there is an effort to make the system, sustainable and in good conditions. We need to maintain the septic tank, like we do for your own house.
Correct. Yes.
If I may add, Ashwack, that's the benefit of one of these types of systems is that it's more resilient. If say you have one unit fail, it's not going to affect all users. So it's more of a resilient system overall.
Any other questions? So, Ashwack, would it be okay if Mr. Weatherby, who's the gentleman that's had the most questions, if he spoke to you on the day that they do the drilling and test pits?
Yes, I'll be there. Well, yes, I'll be there, the consultant also, and on our team, and we can discuss more and see the residents and discuss.
Okay, I think that would be very helpful. That way you can each hear each other and I don't get in the middle.
Come on, stop it.
Okay, any other questions for wastewater? The biggest thing for us is if we don't go forward with the wastewater, we don't go forward with Cathedral Square. So we need to have a positive vote for Cathedral Square to sell at $100,000 for the property, and we need to have a positive vote for the construction of the wastewater so that all of this can go forward. All right. Ashwack and Forrest, thank you so much for joining us. Ashwack, we will see you again at the site.
Yes, on the 26th.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Forrest. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Cindy, thank you so much for coming again.
Absolutely, yeah.
We always appreciate it, and we're very excited.
Thanks for the diagram and the website,
Yeah, thank you.
so everybody can see it. That's awesome. Much appreciated. Anybody here from MVR? Oh, okay. Yep. Hello, gentlemen. How you doing?
Good. Any questions first?
I guess the big one was, a couple meetings ago, we got a sizable surprise bill for the dispatch fees for this year. Just wondering if you could elaborate on why the bill went up so much.
So we do have some cliff notes on the numbers, and essentially our carrier that was dispatching us out of Middlebury, their rate went up, and the difference now appears to be about 12,000 annually. If I read the numbers correctly.
Yeah, that's about right.
So we have 10,000 per year budgeted,
Recording in progress.
and so that'll add an additional 12,000 to that. I'm not sure of all the details around that decision itself. This is just the numbers. I got the cliff notes just before the meeting, so.
Vern, can the gentleman introduce himself?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yep,
sure.
sorry, yep. That's Dan.
Dan Vancelet from the Missisquoi Valley Rescue.
And Shema from Missisquoi Valley Rescue.
So the notes I have is the annual rate was 10,000 per year, and under the new plan, which Shane has been studying behind me, it's an additional 12,000. And this puts us on the same dispatch as the rest of the county, which is a benefit to everybody. Being dispatched out of Middlebury, we have reliability concerns as far as it's all done over the internet. So now we're in the same PSAP as Highgate Fire, Swanton Fire, St. Albans PD, so that is the benefit. That is an improvement in safety, but it is a cost adder, and I don't know many of the reasons beyond that. Do you have any, Shane?
Right, I mean, other than Middlebury was trying to raise their prices as well. And, you know, like Dan touched on, you're getting the service that you need, because you're getting dispatched, well, not you, we're getting dispatched at the same time the fire is, the same time police is, you know, that instance occurs. And we're saving time, because a matter of a life is seconds. So to save that time, as far as that portion of it is huge.
And I guess the other point to make is any of our other agencies in the area would use the same dispatching that we're on now. They would use St. Albans. Missisquoi made the decision many years ago, Keith probably knows more about it than I do, to switch to Middlebury just for the sake of saving money, not necessarily a better product. There was some challenges going to Middlebury because we're like the odd duck in the neighborhood. We're tough to get hold of. We can be sitting next to one of these guys in an accident, and if we want to talk to them through dispatch through Middlebury, it goes here to our base at the thing through the internet down to Middlebury. They pick up the phone, they call back up here, and it adds another loop in communication. So there is definitely an improvement in safety there. But
And,
it is a cost
and if I can just speak to that for just a minute, I appreciate that you know, the time and the safety of people. And I think this board member can say that I just wish we would have had a little more notice of what was gonna happen, because when all of a sudden we saw that bill, or at least this board member saw that bill, I kinda looked around, concerned that the communication wasn't there, that we didn't know there was gonna be that kind of an increase. And we could have prepared maybe things a little different for that, and maybe shared some information on maybe why. Because when we heard about it, we didn't know anything about that. And we were blindsided. I can say it for myself. And I was sticker shocked.
Yeah, the dispatching is pretty sizable expense. I've been on EMS for 32 years now, and I know of one town that pays more for the dispatch than they do to have the ambulance show up. And it's a challenge for all of us, how that business is run. And the state has made changes over the years that the state used to dispatch a lot of services out of the kindness of their heart, and now they've retracted from that because of cost concerns and stuff. So it's a challenge.
thank you for sharing that piece with us. At least it gives me an idea of kind of one of the things that may have been involved in that decision for that increase, because as I said, it was just such a shock to me.
Yeah, no, I wasn't part of the decision process for that, so I can't get down to the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts of it.
Yep.
It's one of the business changes that happened, and I think it's positive in the sense of safety, but financially it's a little bit of a step back and a little bit of sticker shock.
I just want to be able to have the public be able to see that on camera so everybody knows that it was kind of a surprise to us as well, so.
Forward. Yep, in the back.
I think it would behoove this town to, and also every town in the county, to look into the fact that perhaps we should start our own dispatch in the county. Here we are searching all over the state trying to find a dispatch. We ended up in Middlebury. Why not do it within the county? I can't see why it can't be done.
Okay, if I answer that?
Sure.
So, it can be done. I believe it's been considered in the past. There's pretty stringent requirements to be a PSAP. They call it a PSAP, Public Safety Access Point. So you have to meet a lot of criteria. So it's very difficult. It has to be staffed 24/7, phone lines, communication stuff. They're not easy to set up. And there was a shift in St. Albans many years ago because they realized the cost of what they had, and they transitioned it out to the community. Before that, it was like, oh yeah, we'll dispatch for everybody, and then at one point they said, well, we spend a lot of money to have these people here, the lights on. To Middlebury's business model benefit, they did it on a per call basis. So if we weren't up to something, they weren't billing us, for the call. I believe the business model for our local dispatch is per capita. So however many people in the town, that's the bill, and they have a kind of a fixed rate. And there's some stuff they do with that, but yeah, PSAPs they're not easy to set up, and there's a lot of regulatory stuff that goes into them. But I believe it was considered in the past because like the dam here is manned 24/7, and that could have, at one point that was being considered to be a dispatch center for Swanton to save, this cost, but once they started peeling the onion, it just wasn't feasible.
You explained a lot, thank you.
Dan, what next year, I mean, I know it's hard to predict next year, but I mean, can we expect the bill to stay about the same, or is it gonna jump 120%?
Which one?
Dispatch fees, yeah.
They're tied with everything else in the world. So I'd have to look and see what did they give you a contract?
Yeah, we'll be negotiating with St. Albans Dispatch directly through MVR.
Yeah, I believe the way it works is direct to the town, not through the agency, but usually they do contracts, multi-year, get you a better deal, type thing.
Okay.
I can't speak to the business end of that.
All right. Any other questions for MVR?
Curious how much staff you have on your roster right now?
Never enough. So, yeah, staffing is a real challenge, and I don't think it's just MVR, I think EMS wide. On the way here, I went through the McDonald's drive-thru. They'll hire people for $18 an hour, and they don't have to save your life. They can give you a burger and go on, and they don't work all through the night. So, and I've heard multiple times, I work from home and I listen to the scanner. Occasionally I heard multiple times where there's no ambulances left in the whole county. So I'm like thinking to myself, should I like sign out of work and go sit by a truck so there's one ambulance left in the county? So if you know anybody that's interested in EMS, there's some classes that have been put out. This is good. So some of the best people I've worked with have been the older generation. They're looking for something to do in retirement. This is a great part-time gig, and you can really help the community. Or if someone's starting out and it helps build a nice, responsible young adult. There's classes out there, and I believe there's grants that will pay for the education.
So how short-staffed are you?
We are below where we need to be. And I believe it's getting slightly worse, but the good news is there's a class that just tested, so we hope to be able to pick up a few of those people. And we are advertising a few positions. We're trying to restructure the business right now to have 2 people take turns running the daytime operation. So we'll have business continuity throughout the week. So we are short-staffed. I could say we're probably down 2 or 3 people, and they're hard to find. A lot of competition, not a lot of money.
Yep.
The hours are, well,
Yep.
terrible hours. And then there's that sign in McDonald's. I can't compete with that. It's hard to compete. And just, I think PD suffers the same thing. It's hard to get the good candidates. So, and you know, the dynamic is we do a lot more mutual aid than we ever had in the past too, just because it's kind of a universal problem.
Anybody else?
I'll just state that it's sad not to see Greg here, so I could chew on his ear about some comments that were made last time he was here. But,
Greg or Josh?
There's Josh.
Josh, sorry.
Josh, okay.
Yeah. But I do think it was poor timing that MVR chose to switch back to St. Albans Dispatch mid-contract with Highgate, without discussion with Highgate about the thought of doing that.
Yeah, I'll take that back to them and try to understand more what the thought process was. I'm new to the board on all this. I was, hey, somebody needs to be here, here's your cliff notes. I know enough to be dangerous, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, like Scott said, we were a little blindsided. I mean,
Yeah.
the bills go up every year, but your bill was by far the biggest one. I mean, over 100%. And we didn't get an explanation. So I guess next time, we're just looking for when show up with a big bill. If that happens again, we need an explanation.
Yeah, no, I apologize.
It's just fair.
That's bad business, and part of the reason I'm here as well.
All right, scapegoat,
And then-
understood.
And then the only other question I had was, I know you purchased or are in the process of purchasing a piece of property. Time frame on when you think you may be breaking ground on a new station?
That is I built one rescue building several years ago, $288,000, heavily helped by the community. Right now, to build a building, I think Waterbury's building one for $2.1 million with several grants. So any kind of project like that, we're at least 10 years out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing we can do quick. I mean, it's good, fast, cheap pick too, and I think we're 10 years out. We want to take our time, do it right, and make it last 100 years into the future. I said last night we could build, put a tent up or something.
Put it in a mailbox at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, in a mailbox, but that's about it. I mean, the opportunity for the land, land is land, right? It typically never goes down in value, so we seize that opportunity and for future plans and expansion, so.
Gentlemen, I do want to thank you very much for coming and speaking to us today, because at least it gave us persons or people to speak to about the questions that we had and the concerns. Again, I do have a lot of respect for what you gentlemen and your entire rescue squad does for our community, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Dan and Shane, thank you. Careful driving the way home. It's probably snowing out right now.
No worries, I mean,
All right.
hands up the whole shell, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm the one that had to dress nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You can.
Yeah, I'll give you the other two.
Yes, definitely,
Awesome.
thank you.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
See you guys.
Next on the agenda, legislative update with Representative Lisa Hango, live on the air. What can we do for you, caller?
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I'm really sorry I can't be there in person tonight, and I will not be at your town meeting in person, but I will have a formal written report for you that Wendy can distribute at town meeting for me. So I appreciate that very much. My district mate, Representative Wayne LaRush, will be at town meeting, so I will take back to him what I've learned tonight, and he can tailor his remarks around those questions that I've heard you all have so far this evening. It's really exciting to hear about your village core project, so I'm happy that I was able to sit in when I heard a little bit about the Cathedral Square and the wastewater concerns. So that's all really good information for me to have. I'm just going to give you a high-level overview of what we've been working on so far. There haven't been a whole lot of bills passed out of the legislature yet. Starting to happen a little bit more quickly now because we're approaching town meeting day and crossover, which is the date that one bill has to get from one chamber in the House to the other one. So like the House to the Senate or the Senate over to the House. So the pace is picking up a little bit. The things that my committee, which is the Government Operations and Military Affairs Committee, works on are really relevant to select boards and municipalities. We do things like charter changes. We also deal with the administration of all town officials. We deal with the administration of law enforcement. Not the actual law enforcement policies, which are in the Judiciary Committee, but the administration of those personnel. So some really interesting things in my committee, as well as Department of Liquor and Lottery, and the new Cannabis Control Board, and military affairs, military and veterans affairs. So we're really quite busy. So far, we have passed out of our committee a number of charter changes that voters voted on last town meeting day, and they come from around the state. A lot of them have to do with local option taxes that municipalities want in their towns to raise a little bit more revenue. So we looked at a lot of those. And most of them, I would say the majority of them, are dealing with appointed versus elected officials. So for instance, if you're finding it really difficult to elect or to find people who want to run for various town offices, a lot of the charter changes that have been coming through are now these people will be elected or hired by the select board rather than elected officials. So those are the things we've been looking at statewide. Also, we have been taking testimony on information to form a new municipal code of ethics so that your town officials and their ethics policies, there's a push to make that statewide so that all municipal employees will have to follow a statewide code of financial disclosure, conflict of interest policies, things like that. So as I said, we're still taking testimony on that, as well as a statewide code of ethics for state officials, such as your executive officers and your state legislators, your senators and your representatives. We have two big bills, one dealing with cannabis and one dealing with the Department of Liquor. Excuse me. I'm getting a little bit of cold. So they have a bunch of miscellaneous amendments to the current statutes. Some of them are concerning, some of them are pretty routine. Excuse me. But I can tell you a little bit more about them if you have specific questions about either of those areas of policy, liquor or cannabis. Elsewhere in the State House, the other committees, we did pass the Budget Adjustment Act, which is sort of the mid-year true-up of last year's budget. which was a record amount. It was quite large. And in the middle of the year, agencies and departments and other organizations come back and say, well, we have only used this much of the money that's been allocated to us. So sometimes they return it, like the Department of Military does that sometimes. Other times they have to come back and ask for more money. Like for instance, some organizations who utilize traveling nurses needed to come back and ask for more money because they used more traveling nurses than they anticipated in their budget. So that's what the BAA is called, the Budget Adjustment Act. That's what that's all about. The House and Senate very rarely agree on that. So today that was sent to a committee of conference, and 3 members of the House will kind of hash it out with 3 members of the Senate and come up with the compromise, and then that gets sent to the governor. Elsewhere in other committees, public safety is a really big topic. There are a number of bills that are looking at bail reform and possibly trying to repeal the raise the age, which was allowing more people who are older to be tried in family court. Like for instance, a 21-year-old, 18 and under, was those cases were seen in family court, and now it's gone up to 21 and under. So those policies haven't really been working so well, and we've seen that it's kind of imploded in other states. So there are some bills floating around to go back to the way things were a few years ago. I've got some notes here. Some other important bills that will pertain to municipal government. The Senate is looking at the open meeting law, and currently there is a draft in the Senate floating around that I haven't read the latest one. I'm supposed to get briefed on that next week. Some potential changes in the open meeting law. But the School Boards Association has already put out a letter that they have concerns about what changes are being made there. The Healthcare Committee has a bill that's looking at the expansion of Medicaid and other services up through age 26, which is the age that if you have private insurance, your kids can remain on your insurance by law up to age 26. This bill is looking at extending that to Medicare. Medicaid. Someone mentioned earlier auto theft. That bill just passed out of the House, H 563, so it's going over to the Senate for some work in Senate Judiciary. Basically, there were no laws on Vermont's books about an individual getting into a car that does not belong to them and trying to take it for a ride. So that law is really addressing the unauthorized use of someone else's vehicle and or damaging it and taking items out of it and stealing out of the car. I know you just had EMS in. This has not come to us yet, but my committee is the one that would deal with changes in the EMS system and or the dispatch system, and there were a couple of big studies done. So we're going to be starting to look at a bill next week. I believe the number is H622. That is looking at the big picture of EMS and dispatch throughout the state. The representative from MBR was just talking about how we used to be dispatched out of Middlebury, which just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when your neighbors are being dispatched out of St. Albans, but that's the way our system is. It's very piecemeal. right now. And there are areas of the state that are not really covered in terms of dispatch. There's no real backup if their dispatch goes down. And there are also some real inequities that there are certain agreements throughout the state that some towns are paying for EMS dispatch and others are not. So the study proposed to look at all of those things and then bring it back to the legislature to talk about. I don't know where that's going. It's too early to tell because it hasn't really come to my committee yet. And then the biggest thing on our agenda really is housing, because we can't do anything without proper housing for people. We can't expand our workforce, we can't fill the vacant jobs that we have if we can't house the people we need to fill those jobs. So there are a couple of bills in the House and in the Senate that are looking to reform Act 250 regulations to make building housing in certain areas easier so they don't trigger Act 250 review and they don't require Act 250 permits. There are some big roadblocks in the Natural Resources Committees, but two bills, H719 and another one that's not named in the Senate because it's a committee bill called the Be Home Bill, are really looking to make some practical changes to Act 250 law so that it is easier to build in our downtown areas, our village centers, and those other designated areas. And I think that's all I have for you. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
I have a question. Is there any movement on the social work compact that was introduced?
Social work, did you say? I'm sorry, there's a barking dog in my apartment building.
Yeah, the social work compact that was introduced.
Yep, the social work compact is moving along. I expect it to pass. I don't think that there's going to be any reason that it isn't. It's pretty boilerplate language. All the compacts have to be written the same way because other states have already passed these laws. So I don't see any big opposition to it. So on its way, we did also start the process for an occupational therapy compact, licensure compact as well this week.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It should make it a lot easier for mental health professionals to be able to come in the state and use their licenses right away.
Lisa, I got a question. It's in the news almost every day about property tax hike for this year. How's that going through? Making its way through?
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's a really complicated subject. I don't know how much time you all have, but I can do my best. The first thing that I want to tell you is that I represent 3 different school districts as a legislature. MVUs, which is MVSD, and Northern Mountain Valley, which is the elementary schools in Franklin Northeast, and Enosburg Richford, which is another school district, also in Franklin Northeast. So I have 3 different school districts. Fortunately, you're all very similar in demographics to each other, so we don't have any giant disparities. Like I'm sitting here saying, you're gonna be okay, but really you're not. That's not the case. If you live closer to St. Albans, you might have more of an issue. St. Albans isn't going to do so well with the changes that have happened in the last couple of years in terms of their tax rate. But my gut reaction right now is that Franklin Northeast and MVSD are going to come out okay. I know that the rumors are out there, 12 to 20% increase in property taxes. I cannot give you a number, and the reason I can't give you a number is because many years ago, Act 60 was passed, and that created the statewide education funding mechanism so that everybody's school budget goes in one big pot, and then that money gets divided up and sent back to the school districts. But if you have high-spending school districts across the state, and you're a really fiscally conservative school district and you put out a really tight budget, you're still going to end up somehow paying for other folks who are making decisions on a different set of qualifications than you're making your decisions. I really feel like my school boards, the three that I just mentioned, are doing a really good job of trying to keep costs down and not recklessly pad their budgets or ask for the moon like some school districts across the state are doing. Unfortunately, because of Act 60, we have to wait until all the school budgets are passed and they're all in one big pot, and then the yield is calculated, and the yield is a really complex number that I cannot explain off the top of my head how they get to it, and I've been on the school board for 11 years. I still can't explain it. But once that yield is determined, which is usually around the end of May, we'll know a little bit more about our tax rates. Unfortunately, because of a glitch that nobody really foresaw last year with Act 127, which you all have heard about on the news, we have just started the process to get through the legislature to allow some school districts to hold their vote for an extra 30 days, for an extra about 30 days approximately, and rework their budgets and come to the table with more reasonable budgets, and that's what we hope for. We hope that if this law passes, and it still has to make it through the Senate, and it still has to get signed by the governor, our hope is that the school districts, without getting too deep in the weeds, that took advantage of a 5% cap that was giving them a soft landing from another policy, the people waiting policy that was implemented, we hope that they will go back to the drawing board and look really hard at the budgets that they were warning, or that they have already warned, and say, no, we don't want to vote on that. We don't want to bring that to our voters. We want to put a more reasonable budget in front of our voters. We're going to take the extra 30 days and we're going to give them a new budget that they can vote on. So that's our hope, because the more districts that do that, who maybe put too much money in their budgets, to put it nicely, the more districts that do that, the better chance we all have of having a lower tax rate. I know it's not fair, but that's the way it is ever since we passed Act 60, which I think was back in the 1990s. So this Act 127, I just want to say that there are a lot of misconceptions about that. There are three things that people are saying that Act 127 is doing to drive up tax rates that aren't really true. The primary focus of Act 127 was to give districts like ours that have a lot of students who live in poverty, students who may be learning English that isn't their first language, that need a lot of supports in the school system because they are homeless or in foster care or have other high needs, social and emotional high needs, and also academic high needs. So our districts are, I would say, disproportionately high in those needs. So we have very expensive students to educate in our districts, for the most part. So this Act 127 implemented a pupil weighting system that was slightly more fair to districts like ours that had expensive students to educate. Being rural also makes us a a very expensive population to educate, because when you live in a rural area, everything costs a lot more money. You know, transportation is a huge issue. We don't have all of the opportunities right at our fingertips that people who live in larger urban areas do. So the weights, the pupil weights were developed by the University of Vermont, and they were actually developed several years ago when the original pupil weighting formula went into effect. They used a formula that legislators sitting around in a committee might have pulled out of thin air. There was no scientific basis for the weights that were in the original formula. But UVM did a study and they determined what the weights are. For instance, a high school student costs more to educate than a kindergarten student. That's what the weights mean. So they'll give them a weight of like 1.5 for the high school student and 1 for the kindergartner. And I'm just making those numbers up because I don't know what they really are. So last year, when Act 127 was signed by the governor, the weights were changed to the UVM recommendation, which is great. And it really did help our districts because we suddenly got more for our money. We were going to get more out of the statewide education fund to help us with those higher cost students. Unfortunately, in the bill, it was added at the last minute. It was kind of a soft landing for the school districts that were not going to make out so well because they were essentially being overpaid for their students that weren't really costing that much in the statewide formula because they didn't have as high need students as we do. So they took that, the legislators took that and said, okay, we're going to give you a soft landing, we're going to give you a 5% cap. If your spending year over year goes up to 5%, we're not going to ask any questions. And if it goes up to 9%, we're not going to ask you any questions. You know, we're just going to do this for a few years and everything will be fine. But what they didn't realize is that some school districts probably took advantage of that and made their budgets a lot bigger because they knew they weren't going to get penalized. So when the Agency of Education started asking business managers for their estimates, you know, what are your budgets going to look like this year? And this was the end of December 2023 that just passed. The numbers that started coming in were pretty high. And that's when the first warning bell went off with the 18%. You know, your taxes are going to go up 18% based on the estimates that we're getting. So the legislature knew they had to do something, and it took a while to figure out how they're going to work this. So the fix to Act 127 issues just passed the House 2 days ago, and the bill number is H850. It still has a ways to go. The Senate has to agree to it, but I think it's a reasonable compromise, and I don't think from all of the projections that I've seen that NBSD or FNESU are going to be harmed at all by this. It probably won't help us because we're already getting the help that we needed from the education fund being changed for the people waiting. We just really now have to sit back and wait for the rest of the state and see what they're going to do, to see if budgets are revisited, if they're going to be presented to their voters at lower than what they were warned at, because this bill actually will give that extra time. It's going to be a lot of extra work for town clerks whose school districts choose to hold their vote until sometime before April 15th. I don't think any of our districts, any of our towns are going to have that issue because I'm pretty sure our districts are not going to pull back their budgets because I think they were reasonable to begin with. So we're
really talking about other towns around the state. And I hate to name towns, because maybe it wasn't intentional, but there are some towns whose budgets came in quite a bit higher than last year's budgets. So in a nutshell, that's what's happening, and it's like a wait and see game. So I wish I could tell you more about what I know that our taxes are going to look like. I just can tell you what I feel, and from talking to people who know a lot more about tax policy than me, the implications for our towns, I think, are not anything to be truly alarmed about. I think we're going to come out okay, but we won't know until we know what all the other school districts are going to do. So I thank you for the question. I wish I had a better answer, and I also wish I could assure the town clerks that you're going to get that, or rather the school district clerks, that you're going to get that yield number soon enough so you can send out your property tax bills in a timely manner. That's the other concern about this, is there's going to be a really tight time crunch, I think, because the bill specifies that the schools that are going to hold back their budgets and rework them and vote, that vote has to happen by April 15th. But then there's a lot of calculation that needs to get done between then and when the yield number comes out. And then the school district clerks need to know that when you put out your property tax bills. So apologies in advance for the just the short time frame on all of this. And I think it blindsided everybody. I know it did people in the legislature that probably should have known better. So tax policy is not my strong point, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them or get an answer for you.
Thank you. Lisa's a very detailed answer. I'm more confused than ever now. So.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm trying to write something better in my, I'm just thinking aloud, but I'll try to write something better in my update for you.
It's not your fault. You didn't write the policy on how the taxes get calculated, so I understand. Nobody can really answer the question I've heard of how our school taxes get calculated. Nobody knows, but thanks for fighting a good fight. Anybody else got any questions for Representative Hango? No? Okay, I guess that's it. Lisa, we're all set. Thank you very much for sticking around.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to see you all.
Have a good night.
You too.
Alrighty. Mr. Brent Reeder, I saw you walk in. You've been patiently waiting all night, waiting to talk.
Yes, sir.
You are up.
I was actually really just waiting for questions because I understand brevity's important. You have a lot.
Brevity,
For any of you that don't know or haven't heard, my name is Brent Reeder. I'm from Highgate. My family is from Highgate, and I've been retired for a few years now. And somebody had mentioned dispensary incomes in various towns, and so I started doing research. I won't get into details. If you have any questions about that, you can track me down later, but I have numbers for you if you want. And I'm looking to unretire, and I'm hoping that on town meeting day, the town of Highgate will vote yes to allow for a cannabis dispensary in the town, so that I can go back to work and generate some revenue for the town.
Wow, talk about brevity.
Hey,
Good man.
I've been working on it, friend.
So just a little bit more for anybody that hasn't heard. You want to set up a shop here in town.
I do.
You've done a lot of research. You gave 2 great presentations the last couple of select board meetings. Seem to have all your stuff together. You got 125 signatures to get it on the ballot.
Did.
Yep, which is a lot of work. I've had to do that before.
Yep.
But you meet a lot of people that way too, so it's good.
I did.
Yep.
I did. It was
So you
good.
get the word out. So that's the benefit of doing that.
So that's the first step.
Got a question?
Yeah, whereabouts in town you think about putting it?
Well, sir, it's actually going to come down to if there's available areas that can be rented out that meet within zoning, because they have very specific rules.
Yeah.
You cannot have a dispensary within 500 feet of a school zone, so that basically, there's some emptiness here that
You can't
that's
use.
out, you can't utilize. Also, if somebody is 21 years of age, under 21 years of age, not more than 15% of the children in the town under the age of 21 can be exposed to it on any given day, because it's considered to encourage consumption.
Is that within a 24-hour period?
Yes. So we're not so, and for example, the reason I bring that up is because if I were to have it somewhere on this main strip, you know, all of the school buses pass. So obviously that's a no-go. So yeah, I don't think it would be in some place that you could physically plop yourself in the middle of town and turn 360 degrees and see it, but I'm hoping it would be closer to the center of town than not.
You have to have a good secure building too, won't you?
Yes, they have very specific rules about security. It's actually incredibly impressive security, as you brought up. It's a very regulated system. You can't fake your way into a dispensary with a fake ID. It doesn't happen. If you have any questions, if anyone has any questions about things like security or things that you don't want to ask here, you can find all of that at ccb for Cannabis Control Board .vermont.gov/guidance, and it has an incredibly detailed page that answers everything from advertising to location to security and everything else that's needed.
One thing I did, because I didn't know much on the subject, I'm a homework type guy, so I went to one of the local dispensaries in St. Albans, told them who I was, what I had some questions, spent an hour and a half with the owner who told me everything about. The one thing I was really impressed about was security and all the regulations with keeping it away from kids as best they can, and zoning and all. If you got questions, you can either, Brent is very read into it, and anybody that's already set up shop knows what they're doing. It's kind of like getting a permit from the state for wastewater and stuff. It's pretty hard to get a blessing from the state for this. Any other questions for Brent?
It's a question on the ballot. By statute, it is a question on the ballot, so the floor meeting is one thing, but that's a very limited amount of people that participate in this, so more people are actually gonna have the opportunity to weigh in on the question because it's on the ballot.
That is true.
And I'm very easy to contact as a general rule, so if anybody has any questions that you think of, burning questions when you leave that you haven't thought of yet, feel free to reach out to me.
Will he be able to speak at the town meeting?
You can, yep.
So I don't know what your plans are for town meeting, but that may be an opportunity for you to be able to speak to the more people in that. So
I think that'd be a great idea. Briefly though.
Briefly.
Thank you.
He's more than welcome to be
Yeah.
outside. You just can't, you can't impede anyone's entrance or exit to the building, but he can be out there educating people as they're coming in to vote, or people might be really on the fence, or just getting their information off Facebook, which is bad. You know, get the facts and then make a good decision.
And I'm all about the facts. If anyone has a question where they want a very specific fact about running a dispensary or interacting with one in your town, if I don't know the answer already, I will find it, and I will find it from a legitimate source.
Brett, how long, if this vote was passed, how long before you predict to be open and permanent as a dispensary?
Well, Ty, so once the town, if the town says yes, and they say, yes, absolutely, Brent, you can do that. If I started the application the next day, I'll be filing with my veteran status as a social equity applicant, so they're kind of pushed closer to the top of the waiting list, but there are currently, as of January 2023, there were 70 dispensaries waiting for licensure in the loop. So they say on their website that it's about a month. But yeah, exactly. They say on their website that they're supposed to give you some kind of idea about turnover and whether you're going to be approved within a month. They say that, but with that many dispensaries, I'm not sure. But then, once the town says yes, and then once the state says, yes, Brent can do this in this town, then it's finding a location and funding and all of that. So, you know, if everything fell into my lap perfectly, it could be in 6 months. If I had to try and find the right location, it might take a couple years.
The TCB also has a YouTube channel, you can watch their meetings, I think they meet only once a month, but you can watch their meetings after the fact. I have watched them, because my son-in-law works in the industry, so there's a lot of information out there if you're looking for it.
Anybody else for Brent? All right, well, thanks, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Once
Thank you
again.
very much.
Thank
Yep.
you.
See you at town meeting.
Yes, yes you will.
All right, I think we're up to treasurer.
Hi.
Aye.
You have the check mark in front of you, Barb?
Yeah.
And right
Yep.
under that, I don't know if you want to start first or last, but just today I received the Climate Systems Incorporated
I got that, yeah.
maintenance contract. They come twice a year, spring and fall, and do preventative maintenance on our air system. The price has not changed, so I threw it in there, seems though we got it today. So, wanted to make a motion to sign that, and we can keep them happy, and they can keep us happy.
All right, can I get a motion to accept the preventative maintenance agreement for Climate Systems? Looks like a furnish services for $1,300 for the year, twice a year, $650 per billing. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll make the motion to accept that.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All those who say aye?
Aye.
Aye. The,
One signature of yours is
Okay.
fine, perfect.
done.
Perfect. Then you got the check warrant in front of you.
Anybody look at the check warrant?
I'll make a motion to select.
Sorry it
accept
was
the check warrant.
late. Been very busy trying to play catch up this week.
I'll second it.
Motion is passed. All those who say aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
While you're signing that, quick update, it says as of the 15th, but about $7,000 came in today, so it's off. But as of the 15th, my report to you was $139,326.20 for outstanding delinquent balance. Like I said, it's about 7,000 less now, collected today. And I did send my initial tax sale list to the attorneys. She won't get to the letters back to me to be signed until probably late next week. And then so like after town meeting, that process will be, it will be sort of their initial letter from the attorneys, and it's time to make a plan. I think while people have some tax refund money in their pocket, it might be a good time to light the fire. Hate to, but I also don't want it snowballing so far that they're never going to catch up. And my hopes for most of the list are that their mortgage company gets involved and an escrow will come out of it, so they're not delinquent. That's best case scenario.
And if Sue Code over here, she would say, come to see you for a payment plan.
Yes, yes, she would.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate, the people that have been sent to the attorneys have now communicated with me. There are several that are, 5 of them that are now 2 years behind, and no communication. I'm not gonna send someone a tax sale that we've been back and forth with, so.
You're very easy to work with, so I highly encourage that.
I try. I'm here, and I try. We reach all kinds of ways, so that's all I can do. Other than that, playing catch up and rolling on into preparing for town meeting. So that's all I got for you.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you need something from me.
Wendy, you're up, and I gotta take a little break here. Like
Okay.
1 minute.
Yeah, I'm all about a break.
Anybody else needs to go?
no idea. Be the second to know.
Are we on? I think it's weird, we haven't even started talking about the budget and the room is like empty.
Yeah, Phil said he was here for town meeting and it wasn't happening, so he left.
I don't make the budget, so I just.
No.
What's your
You
problem?
heard it all last time. You heard it last time.
Yeah. I should make this.
Maybe that's proof two is not necessary.
Knows what?
I said maybe that's proof two, informational sessions, it's not necessary.
Yeah. I think it was helpful to have the people,
Yes?
but at the first one, and then too. I was gonna say advertise that they were coming, but you did advertise the last one and we had to do it. You can only do so much.
No,
You can lead a horse to water.
You can.
Yep.
Have a lovely evening all.
Thank you.
Thank
See you soon, girl.
Have a good night.
It's inevitable.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so you have minutes from February 1st, our last soiree / info session.
Make the motion to accept the minutes?
Yeah. Second it.
All those who say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome, thank you. I have something here from the Lister's office that Amy asked me to put in front of you. It is a yearly form, a certificate of no appeal or suit pending, that they sign off on that there is nothing in the works and that the grand list was lodged and finalized and there's nothing outstanding. And me and Amy have signed it and it needs to be signed by the select board.
You want to read this first? I'll read it at the end.
You need a motion for this?
Yes, please.
Okay. Proposed motion here for to sign a certificate for a no appeal or suit pending under, looks like Title 32, Section 4157.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
All those who say aye?
Aye.
And this, Vern, sign those,
Okay.
please.
Call them there.
I guess Sharon, where's Sharon? There she is. Mrs. LaRush's list of questions that she had about the wastewater system. Were they all answered? I mean, I can read through these. She wanted them in the minutes, and she wants me to send her minutes to make sure her questions were answered.
Yeah, you can.
And it probably should have come up earlier, but I just found this. Her first question, how much land and how close is the land to the cemetery on Lampkin Street? And will the cemetery and the graves there be in danger?
They are not in danger.
It's across the road.
Correct.
Okay. Question 2 is the system being built on Lampkin Street regardless of the upcoming sale to Cathedral Square?
The land on,
Is the system being built regardless of the upcoming sale to Cathedral Square?
we don't know that yet.
Okay. And then she goes on to ask, was the land purchased specifically for that? Yes, it
Yes.
was.
Mhm.
What about the upkeep of the leach field system? How much will that cost per year, and will we have to hire someone to oversee it?
We shouldn't have to hire somebody to oversee it. The engineers, suggested originally that it'd be about $17,000 a year. It needs an occasional engineer to look at it, but most of the maintenance could be done in like an hour a week by the public works department.
Okay. How many houses can it serve? Will there be room for expansion?
There is room for expansion now, but it depends on how much we continue to add to it.
Okay. And as she understand it, the project is supposed to cost the taxpayers $200,000. The rest is grant funded. What are the assurances of any unforeseen costs?
Um,
This is is not an ideal time with taxes being proposed to go up across the state 18%. We need businesses in town that would bring in tax revenue. Cathedral Square is a non-profit, so would they pay taxes?
Yes.
We already covered that.
They would pay for the land sale and they would pay taxes. Much more taxes than a lot of other buildings or uses would pay.
So her unforeseen cost question,
I don't propose to be magic. Unforeseen are unforeseen because we don't know.
Normal projects have contingencies in them. built
Right,
in.
there are some contingencies built into our plan. But, you know, we could have a nuclear bomb tomorrow and everything would go to the toilet, so.
unforeseen, it's unforeseen.
Right, I mean, we can do the best that we can. And,
Mitigate as best we can.
right.
That covers her questions then, all right. Let's see. Town meeting, ballots are out. We were hung up for a little bit waiting for the school ballots. Those did come in on Tuesday, so, so far I've sent out 58 absentees. Those are available, call me, email me, stop by. You can go through the My Voter page if you can't be at town meeting. The polls will be open 7 to 7 at the school. The floor meeting is at 9, not 10, 9 o'clock. Appointed positions, letters of interest are due by February 29th. I have gotten quite a few for most things on the list, but we do have some that remain unfilled. Off the top of my head, Assistant Animal Control Officer. We have a Planning Commission seat that no one has submitted a letter for. And I have gotten nothing from rec. So there's 3 seats up on rec and I haven't heard from anybody on that board. I guess that pretty much covers it. Shelley and I will be there. The JPs will be helping with the floor meeting and again after 7 p.m. So we have a long day. I anticipate our floor meeting to be lively and long. That's the longest morning I've seen in a while. So.
Because we're a busy little town.
We are.
Got a lot going on.
We are. So, that's pretty much it. So if you need ballots or you have any questions about town meeting, just get a hold of me. It's 2.5 weeks away.
Lickety split.
Yeehaw.
All right, thank you. Town administrator.
I don't have anything for you tonight in the interest of time.
We're not doing that bad, actually, considering the agenda.
No.
Okay, sounds good. I guess we'll go on to the budget here. We're going to do what we did at the last meeting. Each one of us is going to read parts of it and ask if there's any questions.
So I guess I've been nominated for the first, read all 13 articles. And what I'm going to do is after each article, if anybody has any questions at the end of each article, instead of waiting till the end and try to backtrack, it may be easier to do after we read the article and you can ask the questions then. So I'm going to read this verbatim, what's in front of me. I may stumble, so if somebody needs or could help me, that would be great. So on page 16, it starts with 2024 town meeting warning in Highgate, Vermont. The legal voters of the town of Highgate, Vermont, are hereby notified and warned to meet at Highgate Elementary School Gymnasium in the town of Highgate on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, between the hours of 7 o'clock in the forenoon, which is 7 a.m., at which time the polls will open, and 7 o'clock in the evening, which is 7 p.m., at which time the polls will close to vote by Australian ballot upon the following articles of business. Article 1, to select the following town officers. A, 1 cemetery commissioner for a term of 5 years. B, 1 library trustee for a term of 1 year remaining on a 5-year term. C, 1 library trustee for a term of 5 years. D, 1 lister for a term of 1 year remaining on a 3-year term. E, one lister for a term of 2 years remaining on a 3-year term. F, one lister for a term of 3 years. G, one moderator for the ensuing year. H, one select board member for a term of 1 year remaining on a 2-year term. I, one select board member for a term of 1 year remaining on a 3-year term. J, one select board member for a term of 2 years remaining on a 3-year term. And K, one select board member for a term of 3 years. So I've read Article 1. Does anybody have any questions on Article 1? Hearing none, I'll move on to Article 2. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate authorize cannabis retailers in the town of Highgate pursuant to 7 VSA 863? Are there any questions on Article 2? Article 3. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate authorize the elimination of the office of lister and replace it with a professionally qualified assessor appointed by the select board, who shall have the same powers, discharge the same duties, proceed in the discharge thereof in the same manner, and be subject to the same liabilities as are prescribed for listers or the board of listers under the provisions of Title 32. Are there any questions on Article 3? Yes.
More of a statement, because I don't think we mentioned it last time. So the 3 lister positions that you mentioned earlier, because Articles 1, 2, and 3 are on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 lister positions are listed on the ballot. No one is running for them because all of our listers are stepping down. So we have, by statute, have to ask the voters to eliminate those offices to move in the direction of an outside assessor. We have put the RFP out and gotten a bid, which was accepted contingent on a positive vote. So if that gets voted down, I don't really know where we go with that. If they vote no to eliminate the office of listers, but we don't have any listers, I just want people to understand the situation we're in.
Yep.
And why we're asking that question.
And I think you bring up a good point, just to be able to explain why it's there and the way it's set up the way that it is for the
Yeah, we did put the jobs out to try to get them filled by residents and have time to work with our current listers, and we got no bites, which is when we started moving in this direction. So we do have an assessor firm willing to work with us, but we need a positive vote on that question to make it happen.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yep.
So not hearing any questions on Article 3, I'll move on.
Scott, do you want us to do like 3 and 3 or something? Break it up?
No,
Okay.
I can move on.
No, go for
Thank you, though.
If you're having fun, go for it.
The legally qualified voters of the town of Highgate, Vermont, are hereby warned and notified to meet at the Highgate Elementary School Gymnasium on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024 at 9 a.m. to transact the following business. Article 4, to receive and act on the reports of the town officers for the past year. Any questions on Article 4? Article 5, shall the voters of the town of Highgate set the final date of payment for FY 2024-2025 property taxes to be Thursday, October 31st, 2024, with the payments to be received in the town office by 4 p.m. That's Article 5. Does anybody have any questions on Article 5? Article 6. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate vote all public questions and budgets by Australian ballot? Ty.
No comment. I won't be at town meeting day, unfortunately, but I hope that we can make a decision on this article instead of tabling it year after year. It does nobody any good to just keep tabling it. See what people want and vote. That's my only comment on that.
Thank you, Ty.
Just one thing about that, the Australian ballot, I think Wendy can attest to this, since 2020, since the pandemic, when we were doing Australian ballot, we've had more participation. I can't remember by how much, but triple, okay. So triple the town participation with Australian ballot, something to think about.
Thank you. So moving along, Article 7. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate give approval for the village wastewater construction and authorize general fund expenditures up to $200,000 to be paid towards the total project cost of $4 million? That's Article 7. Anybody have any questions on Article 7? Moving along, Article 8. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate give approval for the town to sell 1 ± acres of land from the village core property to Cathedral Square, a non-profit corporation, for the express purpose of developing senior housing in the amount of $100,000? That's Article 8. Any questions?
I got just something that I think is gonna be a question on the floor, is, this isn't, when it's developed, they're still gonna be charged a usage fee for that municipal water, correct?
Yes, water and
This isn't,
wastewater.
that 100,000 isn't saying you're getting free
No.
wastewater.
I think it's a great point to bring up, especially on television, for people to understand that can't make it. So, thank you, Ty. Any other questions, comments? Moving along to Article 9. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate appropriate $5,000 to assist with the moving expenses associated with the relocation of Franklin County Field Days? That's Article 9. Any questions?
Has Ferdinand said if he's gonna be there to answer questions?
He hasn't said.
Article 10. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate appropriate $585,000 to meet the expenses and liabilities of the capital improvement plan, with an estimated $485,000 to be raised by taxes? That's Article 10. Are there any questions on Article 10? Moving along, Article 11. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate appropriate $1,060,134 to meet the expenses and liabilities of the highway fund, with the estimated $899,134 to be raised by taxes? Article 11. Any questions on Article 11? Article 12. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate appropriate $1,413,307 to meet the expenses and liabilities of the general fund, with an estimated $707,147 to be raised by taxes? That's Article 12. Article 13. To transact any other business legally authorized to be transacted, considered proper and necessary when met. Any questions on Article 13? This is dated in Highgate Center, Vermont, this day, 18th of January of 2024 is when this was put together, and it was been signed by all of the select board members.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Mary's up.
Capital improvement payment allocations 2024-2025. For the Parks and Recs Department, Zamboni, $10,000. Arena parking lot, $10,000. Arena roof, $25,000. The zero turn mower for $5,000. Dehumidifier for $10,000. Chiller compressor for $30,000, bringing total Parks and Rec to $90,000. For Highgate Public Library, the library relocation, $50,000. Total for that department is $50,000. The Highgate Volunteer Fire Department, to replace 2021 fire engine number 1, $15,000 allocation. Fire engine number 2, a $30,000 allocation. To replace tanker, a $75,000 allocation, and the utility truck, a $10,000 allocation, for a grand total of $130,000. Pup Works and Highway, to replace a Caterpillar grader, $10,000. The John Deere loader for $10,000. The John Deere backhoe, $10,000. The Western Star tandem truck for $100,000. The compact dump truck, $20,000. The International single axle truck for $15,000. The International tandem truck for $30,000. A disc mower for $10,000, for a total of the Highway Department of $205,000. In around town capital projects. Class 3 road improvements, $50,000. Transfer station slope stabilization phase 2 for $25,000. Macy Road slide for $30,000. Total town projects for $110,000. Total department projects are $475,000. Total town projects are $110,000. Total expenditures to total of $585,000.
Any questions? No?
Just to point out, you have asked that $100,000 be taken off that amount from the ARPA funds.
Correct.
So that's why it says in the article 585, but only to be paid out 485.
All right, moving along, under the general fund, page 44, 45, under revenue. We went over all these line by line the last meeting, nothing's changed. So looking to see if there's any questions on the revenue portion. Okay. Page 45 through, looks like 46, 47, is about the general fund expenditure. Same thing, went through these all line by line last meeting. Any questions on those? Okay, and lastly, page 48, proposed changes to the budget and actual FY 22-23 to 24-25. We went through all these also. Any questions on those?
The social service appropriations.
Which page, John? Oh,
48.
48, yep. Social service, yep.
I feel like, and I didn't compare it to last year's, less reports from the services that we're appropriating to. Are they still all?
They have to send them to me. Some of them are like their budgets and their blank one to a town, and you can tell the insert is town of Highgate. Yeah. I don't put them in the town reports, all of them.
But they're still requesting every year?
Yes, they have to request every year. There was a couple that, very few, and I had asked the board if they wanted to. I think there was 2 off the top of my head that were 100, 200, very small amounts.
Yeah.
That did not throw one in, but during our budget meeting, decided to still give that contribution to that social service agency.
Okay, perfect.
But we are charged per page in the town report, so I don't include them all.
Yeah, I just didn't know if they were just automatically year after year put in.
Nope.
I knew we had adopted that policy
Yes.
years ago.
Yep. It's still followed pretty closely.
Did it answer your question?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, Scott, fire department revenue and expenditures, if you could please.
Absolutely. So I'm going to move along down through the FY 23-24 and propose for 24-25 and the budget change, what that number looks like. The ones as we go down through, and if we look at page 49 in the town report, There are some with no change, and I'm going to move over the top of those because there's no change in it. If people want to take a look at them, they can. As I said, page 49, and this is under fire department expenditures. So budgeted 23-24 of 300 for the workman's comp, $367. Year to date, $304. They're proposing a $1,219 change for 24-25. That's a budget change of $852. For the department stipend, it was 23 and 24 of $9,000. The year to date, it was actually $10,500. The proposed is $12,500, a change of $3,500. Any questions? As I go through these, if you guys have questions, please stop and ask, okay? So the FYI 23-24 budget for Social Security and Medicare was $689, and the actual year-to-date was $803.26. Proposed budget is $956, a change of $267. Moving down through until we go to the personal protective equipment, because the others are no change. The actual budget, the budgeted for 23-24 is $3,000. Year to date was $4,635. So we're proposing $6,000 for 24 and 25. That's a budget change of $3,000, and that's personal protective equipment, as I said. Budgeted 23-24 of $2,500 for air packs and tanks. Year to date, that was $0. They're proposing a budget. We are proposing a budget of change of $4,500 for 24-25. That's a $2,000 change. I'm going to move all the way down now to the Pacific.
That is our property and casualty insurance. So that is passive insurance.
Thank you, Shelley. So looking down through the budget, 23-24 was $5,099. Year to date at that time, year to date 23-24 was $3,335.25. Proposed change of $4,200. That is a negative of $1,299. Moving down to the dispatching fees. Budgeted 23-24 is $11,451. The year-to-date that was spent was $11,541. Budget proposal for 24-25 is $12,025, a change of $574. Budgeted for 23-24 for the public relations of $5,000. Year-to-date at that was spent was $512.29. We're proposing for 24-25 $6,000. That's $1,000 different. Moving down to annual dues, 23-24 budget of $500, actual spent $272, proposed budget of $700. That's a $200 change. I'm going to move down to gasoline, budgeted for 23-24 $500. Year to date actually spent $317, proposing $800. That's a $300 change. For diesel, it's $1,200, which is for 23-24. Year to date was $791.99. A proposed budget for 24-25 of $2,000. That's an $800 change. Uniforms for budgeted 23-24 $500. Year to date was $1,264.80. Proposed budget for 24-25 of $1,000. That's $500 difference. Moving down to general supplies, budgeted of 23-24 of $1,500. Year to date of 23-24 of $596.77. We're proposing a budget of $2,000 of a $500 change would be for 24-25. That brings our grand totals for budgeting down from 23-24, $58,406. The year-to-date is $46,102. Proposed budget for 24-25 is $70,600. And that's a budget change of $12,194. Any questions on the fire department? Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Mary, if you could go over the library revenue.
The library revenue, the only change from the 23-24 to 24-25 is the library tax revenue up $6,350. Under expenditures, the salary will be up $2,035. The insurance and Medicare will be $156 increase. The retirement contribution, $251 increase. Membership and dues, $500 increase. Unemployment compensation down $5. The workers' comp up $424. The custodial services up $1,200. The passive insurance down $711. Standard life insurance up $250. The postage up $400. The printing and binding up $200. General supplies up $350. Summer programs up $200. Teen programs down $100. The craft fair up $300. Electricity up $400. Books and periodicals up $500 for a total of $6,350.
Thank you, Mary. Move on, page 51 to the cemetery fund. I'm just going to read the changes unless it was zero. For revenue, it looks like just $400, so no change there, or excuse me, $400 in the positive for budget change. Under expenditures for mowing, increase of $10,000. Tree removal, minus $1,000. Ground repairs and maintenance, minus $4,000. Stone repair and cleaning is up $400. And fence install and repair down $5,000 for a net change of $400. Any questions? All right, computerization and preservation fund, computerization fees down $3,000. Preservation fees also down $3,000 for a total change of minus $6,000 for computerization and preservation fund.
So just so everybody knows, I'm not sure if it was discussed last meeting, I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Computerization, preservation, and in the general fund, photocopies and research, all of that revenue comes directly from recording, not from taxpayer dollars. So like when we put our records online, it was recording money that paid for that. Anytime we've bound books or did any kind of preservation, recording money does that, not taxpayer money. So it's down, when the interest rates are high, the recording is low.
Yep.
It reflects directly in there, but it's not taxpayer, it's not made up with taxpayer money.
How much is it per page right now?
It's $15 per page, so there's 5 to the general fund, 5 to the preservation, and 5 to the computerization.
Nobody's refining right
Yeah. Computerization, preservation fund, once again, for expenditures. Digitized maps and land records, down $3,000. Xerox it says up $500. Technology purchase, minus $8,500. Network and computer, an increase of $5,000 for a net change of minus $6,000 for computerization preservation funds. Questions? All right, up to ARPA funds. If I read this right, year to date we got $381,000 sitting in there. Is that correct?
No.
No, I didn't read it right.
No. All, for all intents and purposes, you are using $100,000 for the CIP, the capital improvement plan, you have chosen to take $50,000 of the ARPA funds and put it against the additional policing that you have entered into a contract with Franklin County Sheriff.
Okay.
Just to give you a heads up, it's snowing hard and the ground's covered, so be safe going home.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Said it was.
Yeah. So it says proposed budget change for ARPA for FY 24-25 is 150,000.
Yes.
So that's what you are
Okay.
expending this proposed fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's all going to be spent by the end of next year.
It has to be.
Allocated this year, spent by next year. Yeah. Okay. All right. Scott, if you could go over the arena revenue and expenditures.
Sure, I'm gonna go on my colleague's coattails and kind of change the way I did it before, and we're just gonna go to the budget changes from 23-24 to 24-25. So the ice rental is a budget change of $15,000. And maybe, Ty, I don't know if there's any parts of this that when I go down through, or any of the ladies may want to be able to help me with, to explain any of it, but I'll just move along. Skate programs, an increase of $3,000. Turf rental of a negative $500 for 24-25. It's a decrease. An increase of $5,000 for the facility rental. A fall programs, an increase of $500. Winter programs, a decrease of $750. Spring programs, a decrease of $2,000. Summer programs, a decrease of $4,500. Moving down to a live barn, a decrease of $500. And moving down to Little League, a decrease of $2,500. Annual tax fund tax revenue for the budget change of $30,143. Now you may have to help me with a transfer in of a decrease of $28,000.
So we used to have two separate parks and recreation funds, which got merged last fiscal year.
Okay.
So that money came to that 30,000, whatever it is.
28, yep.
28,000 came from the other Parks and Recreation Fund into this one to merge all of their programs and Parks and Recreation under one fund.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
It's not there again this year because there's no more money in that fund. It's been closed out.
Okay, so that's an increase of $14,893. Any questions? Moving along to the arena expenditures. Facility wages, an increase of $6,616. Moving down to AF, Social Security and Medicare, an increase of $506. AF unemployment compensation of $192. Moving down to AF retirement, an increase of $508. Workman's comp, an increase of $729. Buildings and grounds, an increase of $3,000. Natural gas, an increase of $2,000. Moving down to electricity, an increase of $2,000. Zamboni maintenance, an increase of $6,500. Moving down to service contracts, an increase of $5,000. Moving down to general supplies, an increase of $500. Professional development, an increase of $500. Postage, a decrease of $150. Summer programs, a decrease of $3,500. Moving down to winter programs, an increase of $500. Spring programs, a decrease of $1,000. You're gonna have to help me with AF, I bet it's a John Deere tractor, right, for cutting the grass?
Yeah, it's a little wide on the track.
Okay, a decrease of $250. The zero turn, a decrease of $250. The John Deere 33, a decrease of $6,500.
It's paid for now.
Thank you. As Shelley said before, the passive
Passive
insurance, a decrease of $3,500. Life standard or STD insurance, an increase of.
Short-term disability and life insurance.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, it comes out STD.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you. Moving down to travel expense, an increase of $1,000. That's an increase of the 24-25 budget of $14,893. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, Mary, if you could go over Public Works revenue.
Public Works, AOT and state aid up $10,000. And tax revenue up $25,747 for a total for that category of revenue at $35,747. Under expenditures, the director's salary down $9,338. Crew wages up $5,097. Temp help wages down $10,000. Director overtime up $13,500. Crew overtime up $1,098. Insurance buyout a negative of $4,800. Group health insurance up $9,000. Social Security and Medicare down $340. Retirement contributions up $829. Professional dues up $50. Unemployment compensation down $128. Workers' compensation up $1,366. General permitting fee up $650. Bail mulcher up $500. The John Deere 509 down $500. The side-eye mower up $250. Roadside mower up $500. The grader up $500. The loader down $500. The backhoe down $500. The Ford F2 or 550 down $2,000. The International up $1,000. The Tandem up $4,000. And passive insurance at a negative $2,943. Standard life insurance $756. Communication and radios down $7,000. Travel down $800. Diesel down $10,000. Oil and grease up $2,000. Street signs up $500. Guardrails down $10,000. Stone and gravel up $25,000. Paving material up $20,000. Crack ceiling up $30,000. Equipment grant for the highway up $5,000 for a total expenditures of $35,747.
All right, thank you, Mary. Lastly, I'd like to, we always dedicate the report to certain people that have given a lot to the town. On the inside cover, you'll see there's 4 people this year that made the cut. First one's Philip Rosso, otherwise known as Butch. Retired this past August, did 20 years of service with Public Works. I've known him for the last 3 years. Before that, I knew him as the guy who always put snow at the end of my driveway. But really good guy, and he's already missed. Amy Reynolds, one of our 2 listers that will be voting to unfortunately replace. We're getting the 2 that we had retiring at the same time. She's been with us since 2013, and we'll be sad to see her go too, and thank you for her service to the town. Peter St. Germain, her study sidekick since 2003. He's also decided to go into retirement there, and there's something in here, and I'm not sure what this is. It says, thanks for all the stories and for the yummy donut deliveries. I'll have to. Michelle.
Yeah.
Okay. Lastly, Bruce Ryan. I did not have the pleasure of knowing him, but from other people I've heard, really good guy. Served as a member of the Highgate Planning Commission for a total of 25 years, beginning in '97 until 2022. Although it says, although a quiet board member, he was always listening, chiming in as necessary, always very witty, always adjourned every meeting, and passed away this past July. So on behalf of everybody in the town, thank you, Bruce and his family, and for his service to the town. He always ended with meeting adjourned. I did that last time. Before we do that, I want to thank Scott for stepping up when we needed an extra select board member. This is going to be his last regular meeting. He'll be at town meeting day, but thanks for stepping up. And from what I've heard, he's learned a lot.
Absolutely, thank you.
And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
So in honor of Bruce Ryan, if there's no other questions, meeting adjourned.